Hello everyone. Today we're going to be looking at apologies. Sorry everyone. Today we're going to be looking at the fundamental metabolic pathways within an organism. So every process within our body, every biochemical process within our body is conducted by catabolic and anabolic reactions. Catabolic reactions basically means breaking compounds and molecules and things apart, and anabolic is the opposite of catabolic, which means anabolic makes compounds together, makes substances, makes molecules, etc. So it's very important because from neurotransmitters, neurons, proteins, cell membranes, everything is conducted by these two metabolic pathways. So firstly, to understand what catabolic and anabolic reactions even are, we need to look at it from a diagram perspective first to get a better overview of it. So let's zoom in on this first. Sorry about that. So firstly, within our body, every single food that we consume, such as maybe starches, lipids, and every other macromolecule that we talked about, proteins, nucleotides, all of these complex polymers of those macromolecules are broken down by catabolic pathways. All right, they're broken down by hydrolysis in particular. Then that moves on as those complex polymers are broken down. It makes monomers of those complex polymers slash macromolecules, such as lipids and all that. However, now these monomers are alone. Our body wants to utilize them again. Our body wants to utilize these monomers again by making different biological substances, molecules, compounds, etc. So now anabolic pathways create new things that our body needs or necessities. Within this process, ATP or energy is also made, and heat is also dispersed within our external environment or surroundings. Guess what this is called? This is called an exothermic reaction. When within a process, an exothermic reaction is basically when excess heat is dispersed throughout our external environment or surroundings. So at the end, when anabolic reactions, as we get back to it, these monomers, when they're connected with one another, they get connected depending on what macromolecule they are and depending on what bonds they are. Macromolecules are formed, depending if they're complex polymers or even if they're used for different things. That's a basic example of how catabolic and anabolic metabolic pathways help us within our bodies. So firstly, let's look at catabolic reactions, okay? Catabolic reactions basically mean, let's write this down. Catabolic reactions are basically, it's basically breaking down complex molecules. Sorry, that's an M right there. Molecules into simple ones. Or monomers. This can be done through the process of the main process of breaking complex macromolecules down is called hydrolysis. Within hydrolysis, a water molecule is added between bonds to break them, along with enzymes, and the functional groups also play a part in that. Hydrolysis basically means adding a water molecule to compounds to break them apart and separate their monomers, which is also just referenced, which we also just referenced catabolic reactions in that. Okay. Okay. Now, let's look at anabolic reactions. So, anabolic reactions. Anabolic reactions are basically the building of more complex from small subunits. So, just like how catabolic reactions break them down, anabolic reactions make different substances, compounds, and different molecules within our body, even other biological substances, with the monomers that we get. So within this process is called dehydration synthesis. Dehydration synthesis. Dehydration synthesis. So within dehydration synthesis, water is removed from the molecules, compound, or biological substances. When water is removed, they can finally, depending on what macromolecule they are, they can join. For example, if they're carbohydrates, glycosidic bonds are made. If they're proteins, peptide bonds. You get the point. So let's actually get really in depth with this now. Let's give some really good examples of catabolism or catabolic reactions. So for example, sucrose, which is a carbohydrate, gets broken into glucose and fructose. Then for example, for lipids get broken into glycerol, and they get broken into fatty acids. This happens when water is added to these complex macromolecules. Not really complex, but however, you can call them polymers of you cannot really call them, you can just call these macromolecules in a way. You can break these macromolecules down into their respective components by adding water to it, which is a catabolic reaction. We're not going to add lipids and nucleotides just for the sake of this video, because we just want to give some general examples. Now, let's actually look at some dehydration synthesis and hydrolysis reactions, alright? So, firstly, I totally forgot to mention one fact. Within anabolic reactions, when different monomers of many different macromolecules, for example, nucleic acids, there's phosphodiester links, and when they are formed with one another, this action happens through the anabolic pathway. However, this also brings one more thing in. It brings in, like, when different monomers are getting connected with one another, depending on what macromolecule they are, it undergoes a endothermic reaction. It undergoes an endothermic reaction. As monomers of many macromolecules or polymers of macromolecules are formed together, endothermic reaction takes place because we are taking energy from our external environment or surrounding within this process during the anabolic pathway. So that was just to differentiate between exothermic, which is catabolic, and endothermic, which is anabolic. Okay. Now, for just the sake of this video, we're just going to do an example of some amino acids. We're not going to do each and every macromolecule. We're just giving an example. Let's use different markers. Let's use, okay, let's just use these two. Firstly, let's do 2 amino acids. This is the first amino acid. So we can automatically tell this is an amino acid because this is the carboxyl group, this is the amino group, there's the hydrogen bond on top, there's a central carbon, and this area right here is, or these elements right here is the R group that is made by functional groups such as hydroxide, etc. Okay, second amino acid. Okay, now we drew the second amino acid. It may look very complex, however, we can easily break this down. Firstly, this area right here. Sorry, you can't really see this bond. Let me erase that. This covalent bond right here. Anyways, this functional group right here is the carboxyl group. This functional group right here is the amino group. This is the central carbon, the hydrogen bond on top like always, and this huge these huge molecules and compounds, this huge compound right here basically is the R group. All of this is the R group right between the central carbon. Same thing with this. So what we can do actually is we can just erase this, and guess what we can do? We just have to write one variable, R. So R group and R group, and now we have to connect these two. Guess how we can connect these two? This is an anabolic reaction. This is a dehydration synthesis reaction. A dehydration synthesis means what? It means we have to remove a water molecule. So how can we do that? So firstly, let's split this. You see this functional group of hydroxide here and this hydrogen bond right here? What we can do is remove that. Remove this hydroxide right here. And guess what? That's basically it. If we connect these two, our whole amino acid group, we just formed 2 amino acids, and they are connected by a peptide bond. So let's erase this and let's do it much closer. And So basically, this right here, this amino group right here, and the carboxyl group right here made a peptide bond, which is crazy. Along with that, that's not the only products that we got out of this. We made a whole amino acid that's connected by a peptide bond that we just connected, and we just connected a carboxyl group and an amino group. We also get the product of water, like we said. The OH belonged to the carboxyl, and the H belonged to the amino group right here. And one of the H's belonged to the amino group right there. So this is a dehydration synthesis reaction, which is an anabolic reaction. Now we're going to be looking at a hydrolysis reaction. So within a hydrolysis reaction, it is actually the opposite. We don't have a water molecule as a product at the end. We need to utilize water molecules to break different types of bonds depending on what macromolecules they are. Okay, so firstly, for catabolic reactions, it's called hydrolysis. All right, we're also going to be doing we're going to be doing an amino acid as an example again too. So basically we're going to use the last amino acid example. So this is what it was before. Sorry, that's a double bond right there. My apologies. Okay, basically, like I said earlier, the hydrogen bonds do not always have to be on top. Sorry, I don't think I specified this. The hydrogen bonds do not always need to be on top. The configuration really doesn't matter sometimes, as long as there's an R group, depending if it's on top or bottom. However, there needs to be a hydrogen bond no matter what, and there should be an R group too. There has to be an R group, in fact. Anyways, to break this, this is where it is. This is where it's linked. You see this carboxyl group from this amino acid, and from this amino acid there's the hydrogen from this amino group. Sorry, I think I said that wrong. Basically from this carboxyl group there's a hydroxide. From this carboxyl group there's a hydroxide, and from this amino group right here there's a hydrogen. So when OH, it can also be written as, guess what? Water, H2O. Can also be written as H2O because from the amino group on this amino acid we are losing an H, and from the amino acid from this amino acid we are losing a hydroxide. So if you do the math, 2 H's and 1 O, guess what that is? A water molecule. So if we want to break that, very simple. All we have to do again is we just have to add the H back here. So if you look at it, technically it should be just like this. So let me just draw it out. Oh, we do have enough space. Perfect. See, I can do the hydrogen bond at the bottom and R group at the bottom. Doesn't really matter though. My apologies for that. Sort of shut the camera. sorry for this amino group right here. I don't really have enough space, or else it would have been just like that. So what do we do here? Did you see how we removed both of these amino acids? Both of these amino acids are gone now, because now we attach the hydrogen again, which made this a whole amino group, and we attach the hydroxide to this double carbon bond with the oxygen. This is pretty crazy, because this is a whole um, hydrolysis reaction. This is known as a catabolic reaction, and millions and different types of reactions happen like these within your bodies to create substances, to break substances, and basically these are the main two types of metabolic pathways. So to understand these, it's very important, and without understanding these, you can't really know how things are transferred within your body and other biological substances and chemicals are even produced in the first place. Anyways, thank you so much for watching metabolism and catabolic and anabolic reactions in particular. I hope all of you have a wonderful, wonderful day, and I hope you keep watching other videos on the website to understand more complex topics. Bye, guys.